Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me over there is Jacob Litton. It's great to be back. We tried to have a show last week, but I was gone at the beginning of the week, and then Jacob informed me that he was moving, and so he texts. That's how it comes down. He texts me, says, "Hey, I got a new house." I was like, "Oh, cool." Thinking that he put an offer in on a house. No. He's actually moving that day. So he believes in jinxes that strongly that he won't tell me till the day he has the keys in his house. So is that how it goes, Jacob?
I did not tell anybody, and that's exactly right. I do believe, I'm a firm believer in jinxes, and yeah. I said before, I do not, until the keys are in my hand, until I'm physically in the house, I will not tell anybody.
That's great.
It's also not the first time I've done this, so, we've done the whole, they accepted the offer, we got inspection, the inspection fails, this or that, So yeah. Nope, not spreading the news with anybody until I'm physically here. And that's when I texted you.
Anybody in your family know? Did anybody in your family know?
My parents.
Your parents did?
My parents were the only ones that knew.
Yeah. Wow.
Kept it a secret from everybody. I
could get that, where you just don't want to have to go through the whole explanation when people asking you, "Oh, did you get the house?" And then you're like, "Oh no,
it's the letdown when you make an offer and they don't accept it, or or like I said, the whole inspection thing. We've spent thousands of dollars on inspections that have failed for one reason or another.
Well, they're worth every penny, because if you get out of, bad purchase, foundation crumbling or something like that,
absolutely.
Yeah, they're well worth that price. And there's a reason why those people charge as much as they do.
Yeah. Hey, but I'm here now. Blank canvas behind me. I'll, have some lion stuff back here really soon. So
I hope so, man. We'll figure out how to rotate your camera. You can get that doorway out of there. We can get some Lions posters, whatever. We'll figure it out, man.
I do have a mini helmet back there. I don't know if you can see really far back on that.
Is that what it is back there?
I was like, let me just throw one Lions things just so you know.
Nice. I like it, man. I know, probably everything's in boxes and you got, stuff everywhere.
It is a mess, yes.
Yeah, I'd imagine, especially with your 4 kids. Trying to deal with all that, I think I asked you how moving was going, and you had some choice words for me, and I will not do any more moving. Like, if I have to move, I will pay someone to move. I'm getting a little bit too old, and I'm not lifting all that stuff.
Right. Lugging couches and dressers and just, and it's been so hot. It's hot, sweaty, and uncomfortable. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even want to stand outside, let alone, today wasn't bad, but this weekend, you didn't even want to stand outside. It was just, you'd sweat just standing there. You're working.
Air is real thick and everything. Yeah. Not fun, but, we're getting there. We're in here. We're staying here, so it's all good.
You know what was fun, though? The Tigers sweeping the Indians over the weekend, and especially with that comeback.
Who did they sweep?
The Guardians.
Careful.
I know. That was not an offensive term. I don't know why they switched it. Whatever.
Yeah. Right.
So, let me tell you what happened to me watching that last part of that game. So I'm listening to it while I was working this week. I was listening to Dan Dickerson call the game. They score their run. I get a little upset. I turn that off. And then, I calm down. I look back on game day, and I was like, oh, well, we got a guy, Kinstry's on first. And then they threw him out. And I was like, oh, crap. And then it looked like Dingler was out, and I thought that it was over. But what I didn't realize is they had challenged that play, so they had turned it off. I thought the game was over. So then I looked back. Then I just happened to go back to game day just to look, and I was like, 1-1 in the 10th, and I did catch everything that happened in the 10th, all those runs and stuff. But I couldn't. I had turned it off by then. I thought the game was over.
Right. Well, that's a good surprise for you.
It was a very good surprise.
Yeah, I got to watch that with Milo, just pouring it on the 10th inning. It's like, oh my God. Riley, after the Riley Green home run, it's like, oh yeah, massacre now.
I know. Well, I felt good when they hit the 3-run homer. I was like, because one run, is not like, because you got a guy on second automatically in these extra innings. So it's like when we scored 3, I felt really good. I was like, okay, well, that's good. And then they just kept pouring it on. It's like they scored like what? Before that, they had scored 4 runs in the whole series. They ended up scoring,
and Riley Green did not have a hit.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't hit any hits for the Guardian.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
This is his first. That home run was his first hit. He was up with the bases loaded on earlier and didn't do anything in that game. So man, but yeah, it was that was a nice surprise when I checked that out. So let's get on and talk to some Lions stuff. So first, I'm gonna throw something at you here. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Eric Ebron was at the Lions facility last week, and I thought in my head, why is Eric Ebron with this line? So it really made me mad. Just like, I don't want him anything to do with the Lions. I didn't like when he was here, and I still don't care for him. Is there any other person that you could think of, a former Lion, that would make you more mad than the Eric Ebron thing? Like for you personally?
The thing about Ebron, I hated the pick. As soon as it happened, I hated the pick.
Yes.
And then obviously, his performance on the field was not that great either. I don't hate Ebron as a person, but it was just one of those things. He leaves and they talk trash or whatever after they leave. I can't think of any Lions that I really hate. The only one recently that comes to memory is just CJ GJ, CD Deuce or whatever. He's the only one, he left and kind of talked his trash and everything too, but nobody that popped in mind immediately. Is there anybody else for you though?
Well, other than Matt Patricia, if he came back, that would be.
He's not a player.
He's not a player, right? No, he's not a player. That's you're 100%.
My God,
right.
I don't want him back in the city.
For a little bit, Ndamukong Suh would have probably been on that list. Time has kind of faded that a little bit, just because he left, and he didn't, but.
But that's somebody else. I didn't really dislike Suh at the time, and when he left, it seemed to be 100% about the money for him, right? I mean, that was
100%.
And then I guess that's valid to feel salty about that, or like from a loyalty aspect and everything like that. Like you just left because of tax-free Florida, but I guess I could see that.
I mean, that was at the time. I think I've kind of let that go.
I think most Lions fans have too, because if you remember when he shared that thing last year that he was in Detroit, Twitter broke loose, everybody on there, a lot of people assuming that he was coming, and we kind of figured that wasn't happening, but he doesn't fit on the team anymore.
No, he does not. I think they would have loved his passion, but I would not have put up with his, stepping on Aaron Rodgers or kicking or, doing whatever, all those type of things that, he did when he was on the field. But maybe he wouldn't be as frustrated being a Lion with this regime, because we'd be winning as opposed to just constantly getting your face kicked in like we were back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were good for a couple years, and then he left.
Yeah, exactly. All right. What's come back is the NFL Top 100. I'm not a huge fan of how they are doing it this year. They used to do like 10 a day. Now they're doing like a couple each day, which is, I don't understand why they're stretching this thing. I don't know if you saw this. They're stretching this thing all the way out till September. So like we're gonna have like a couple each day for months. I don't get it. I don't like the way they're doing it this year. But they have released. I think I didn't see who was released today, but they were up to like 88 or something. The player number 88. But number 94 on that list is Sam Laporta. So what did you think about that rating on there for Sam?
I was happy to see him on the list again. Actually, I feel like he deserves to be there. He was number 80 last year, so he did fall a little bit, but that kind of goes with both his play and the expectations, right? Because of how well he did, the season previously, then he's ranked number 80. You think based on that trajectory, he's going to be taking it to the next level. Injuries, play scheme, other things happen or whatever. He wasn't quite up to that level. So then he drops a little bit, but they're still recognizing that he is a top player in the NFL. So I'm happy with it. What about you, though?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Do you feel
I'm okay
snubbed?
with him at 94. I figured they were going to add it. I was surprised he was still on there, because you figure Brock Bowers is going to be on there. This season he had last year, breaking Sam's record from the previous season. And so I was like, that might bump him, just off the list totally. but I have a feeling there's going to be, a lot of Lions on this list just because of how well we've been playing. I'm okay with Sam being 94. We'll see who's ahead of him as far as tight ends and stuff like that. I'm not really sure who's going to be up there, but 94, that's a respectable number. This list is voted on, in case you aren't familiar with this, they're voted on by the players. So the players vote this. So, it's a little different than just media or whatever. These are generally, it's a fairly reliable list. However, last year had some pretty, Brock Purdy being top 20, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it is largely based on the body of work for your whole career, but I mean, it's swayed by how you played last year.
Mm-hmm.
So then,
Yes.
like, for instance, Aiden Hutchinson obviously was on the list last year. I don't know, in your opinion, do you think he makes it this year? I mean, without a doubt, he's a top 100, top 50 player, but with the injury and everything like that, I think they probably leave him off. That's typically how those things happen.
I don't know, man. I think he played enough last year that he was number 41 last year. Okay. He played better than that, like up to his injury. The injury wasn't his fault. I can't imagine Aiden not being on this list, but him being injured, it will probably play a factor. I was going to ask you, do you think he'll be rated higher or lower? But based on what your comment, you think he's going to be rated lower than 41, correct?
Right. I'm hoping that he makes the list. I just feel like because of the injury. But you're right. I mean, up until the point when he got injured, he was playing better than probably a lot of the people that are going to be on this list. So,
yes.
Which it's never a question. He's absolutely a top 50 player. But I mean, as far as this list goes and everything, he's still on the rookie contract and everything. It's not like he's been doing this for 10 years. So I don't know. This one's up in the air for me. Obviously, he deserves to be there, and I hope he's there, but I don't think he is.
I think he's going to be. So let's just go through last year. We had 5 players on this list. Penei Sewell was the highest. He was at 22. Right behind him was Amon-Ra at 23. Aiden, who we just mentioned, is 41. Jared Goff is 48. And Sam Laporta, who we first mentioned, was 80. I'm going to jump to Jared Goff, number 48 last year. You think he's higher or lower on this list?
I think he's higher.
I think
he
so
hit
too.
Next level last year, and quarterbacks are a premium and everything. I think he's going to be higher. And sometimes they share like these sneak peek, where they share pictures of the players' ballots. And Jared Goff was top 10 on a few of these things that I saw.
Really? Okay. I
think they only let them vote for like 20 guys or something. I forget the number. They let everybody vote for like 20 or 25 people or something like that. So you're not, not every player's making 100 people. They're making like 20, 25. And Goff was on top 10 for like more than one. There was a couple of them, which leads me to believe, hopefully, that he will be bumped up, maybe top 30. We'll see.
I mean, Brock Purdy, I don't know his exact number last year. I guess I could look it up, but I think he was top 20 last year. I mean, I'd rather have Jared Goff 10 out of 10 times than Brock Purdy. I just, he's been doing it longer. He's done it on different teams. He's gotten multiple teams to playoffs. Yeah, I'd take Jared Goff. So Amon-Ra Penei Sewell, I think Penei is going to be ranked higher than 22 this year. I'd be surprised if he's not top 10, top 15.
I hope so, but it's also just that position, right? And I mean, the same thing for Amon-Ra. I kind of expect both of them to probably still be in that same range. It would be great if they were higher, like good for them, good for the team and everything like that. But I think they're probably floating around 2025 again.
I think Amon-Ra probably in that same ballpark. I think Penei is going to be top 15. I'd be pretty shocked if he's not top 15 on this list.
Well, they only had one offensive tackle in the top 15 last year. It was Trent Williams.
Yeah, and he's not going to be in the top.
Right. And you've got Penei, you've got Lane Johnson, Armstead, Wirfs, Tristan Wirfs he could leapfrog Penei in this list.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's going to be, interesting. They're just their position. There's like 4 or 5 offensive tackles or something like that make the top 100. It doesn't usually, whatever there is, 10 quarterbacks. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I did have where you had mentioned Brock Purdy last year because I just wanted to see the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Was number 2, Patrick Mahomes 4, Josh Allen 12, Jalen Hurts 15, Dak Prescott 16, CJ Stroud they had 20.
Yeah.
He's going to make a tumble down this list. Brock Purdy 28, Jordan Love 34. laughable. Tua 36, Joe Burrow 39. See, so Burrow had the injury. Burrow's at 39 on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, maybe Hutch is in there. Stafford 42, Goff 48. And then you still have Herbert, Cousins, Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence. Quarterbacks a premium.
Yeah. Who on our team that did make it? There's only one player that I think is going to make it that didn't make it last year, and that's Jameer. Where do you think he ends up on this list?
Oh, you think Jameer's the only one that's going to make it?
I think so. I would have thought you got more.
Well, I think Brian Branch, Kirby, like one or both of those.
Yes, Kirby will make it.
The thing is, it's player voted. Here's my thoughts, though. It's player voted. Brian Branch, obviously, they both perform at a high level. Obviously, all pro and everything like that. Kirby still has that whole thing where he's like either not liked or dirty or whatever the perception may be. That's the only reason that I think that maybe Branch makes it, but Kirby doesn't.
Okay.
But one or both could possibly make it. I think Jameer is a lock. Jameer is definitely a lock to make this list now.
Yes.
And then outside chance you possibly could have an appearance from Jack Campbell or Jameson Williams, but that's a pretty long shot. But that would be cool.
I don't think J-Mo will make it. I don't think he's going to make it above Sam. Jameer is definitely going to make it. I was surprised he should have made it last year, but he didn't. So, yeah, I don't even know why I didn't think about Kirby. With the I think that he's that top player and definitely Branch, but I just don't think Branch has done enough where he's going to get voted in that echelon. But Kirby led the league in interceptions, so that's going to get him on people's list just doing that in itself. So you're right, Kirby's going to make it.
If we can just clip this part right here where he says, "Jacob, you're right." Save this part, put that on repeat.
You'll make a meme out of it, and then you'll just text it to me, just myself saying that you're right. Nice. Yeah, that's great. So anything else you want to hit on this top 100 before we move on to the next thing? Nope, I'm good. All right, man. PFF, talk about this time of year. That's what we talk about is rankings, right? Because there's not much going on. So this is what we're going to talk about. PFF ranked some position groups. They actually hit the offensive line today, which let's start out there. Offensive line, they ranked. Why don't you tell us what they ranked us and the rest of our division? Yeah, so Pro Football Focus, the position group rankings, offensive line, they have the Lions at number 13. Reason being, I'm trying to pull it up right now just so I could get the exact words that they said. It says perhaps no unit is expected to drop off more than the Lions offensive line. The perennial top 10 unit endured several changes, losing Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler. So based on losing those two guys, they think we tumble down to now the 13th best line, despite the fact that we still have Penei Sewell. Yeah, I mean, I expect some us going down, but we still have Hank Fraley as a coach. We still have really good offensive linemen. What I'm more shocked about, who did they rank number 4 on that list, Jacob? Yes, this is laughable, though. So, I mean, number 4 on the list, the Chicago Bears. Brand new, fully sculpted offensive line. I think they've only got 2 returning starters, and they've got Joe Thuney. Jonah Jackson is now in Chicago, and now they're top 5. Crazy to me. They haven't even played yet together. So, yeah, on paper, they might be better, and I expect them to be better, but it takes a while for offensive line to gel, and then you're also expecting those guys to be healthy. Jonah Jackson hasn't been healthy, and as a Lions fan, we know 2 or 3 seasons, and so to count on that, I think that's crazy. We are actually Minnesota's ranked number 7, and the Packers are ranked 14, so they're right behind us. So I mean, it's the whole division is top half in the league, but I have more faith in the Lions to be higher than 13. I do think we're going to have to prove it. And like I just said, that point with Chicago, it's going to take time to gel. It will take time for us to gel, and losing Frank is going to be big. But I have faith that Hank Fraley is going to get these guys ready to play. Absolutely. It's hard to be impartial, but I would think that we would still have been like top 10. I think so too. I mean, Penei Sewell alone is. I mean, I like Mahogany's out there. We spent some draft capital. Got Tate Ratledge, who is probably he's probably going to be starter if at guard or if not center. We still have Taylor Decker on the other side, who's a very good tackle in his own right. And if we and Graham, is hopefully. I mean, Graham has experience. I'll take him. I would rather have him as a top backup. We'll see. He might be out there or not. Your boy Miles Frazier. Let's see if he can make the jump. Right.
Hey, we got players.
We do. Other groups that they go. Let's hit linebacker next. So they did linebacker group. They actually have the Lions ranked as the number 2 linebacking group in the NFL. I was shocked to see that. Is that where you think they belong, or you think that we belong somewhere else?
I mean, it was surprising to be number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone. I don't know if they're using these, based on having Malcolm Rodriguez and Derek Barnes back, and this is just, based on what we could be. Like, we could be number 2. Obviously, this is something else that's like, hey, top 10 would be pretty cool, but top 3 for the linebackers, that was a surprise to me.
I was pretty shocked by that too, and especially when you got Lions linebackers. A lot of other teams' linebackers are, they'll have a high sack total. Lions don't have that guy. They don't have a guy with. I mean, they'll have guys they'll rush and stuff like that, or maybe create some pressure. But we do not have guys that get a lot of sacks. So that's why I was kind of surprised. I mean, they have the Eagles as number 1, and then they put us as number 2. I like our linebacking group for what we need them to be. Be able to stop the run, be able to cover. I like that, but it's not very flashy. And to be a number 2, I was surprised by that ranking. And also I'm surprised because it wasn't that long ago that we had the worst linebacking group in the NFL.
Right.
Couldn't cover anybody. Everyone's always out of position, over pursuing, all those type of things. And now, Brad Holmes and, Shep transformed that room into something that's very, very respectable.
Right. No, definitely cool to see. Maybe because Shep's defensive coordinator. That also, I don't know. I don't know if I trust Pro Football Focus to dive that deep into these rankings, but with all the injuries and everything, Rodrigo obviously out. Anzalone missed time. Jack Campbell's the only one that was healthy the whole time. Derek Barnes didn't play, so
Yep. Yeah, I like this, and I like. We were on Pride of Detroit a couple weeks ago, and we talked. Miko brought up Derek Barnes, and I think a lot of Lions fans have kind of really forgot about Derek Barnes as far as what he can do on the field and what he's going to bring back to this defense. We talked about needing extra edge rushers and stuff like that. Derek Barnes can bring a little bit of that. He can rush the passer, but he's very good in coverage. He's going to make this linebacking crew, assuming he's healthy and back to his self, he's going to make this a respectable linebacking crew. I don't know if it's number 2 in the NFL, but I'm happy with it.
Right. Put some respect on our name.
Exactly. All right. Let's go over to the receiving group. Got the Lions listed as number 4. Again, I'm surprised that they have them ranked this high on that list. We're up there with some pretty good teams, have some pretty good receiving groups on there, like the Eagles. I know the Tampa Bay's up there. Are you okay with number 4, or what you thinking?
I'm okay with number 4. I'm okay with having a top 5 spot when it comes to receivers. The other team that was ahead of us, you got the Eagles number 1, Buccaneers number 2, and then the Bengals number 3. Which obviously Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, really good group. I like Amon-Ra and J-Mo. And then when you add in Sam Laporta, Gibbs from the backfield, I'm okay with that.
Yes, I'm okay with it too. I think when you get down to it, we could say, you and I we're happy with this team. We have very, I wouldn't trade these guys out. I mean, I like what Amon-Ra. I know that there might be more talented people than Amon-Ra, but for what he does to this team, the examples he sets, all that, I'm very happy with him, and I wouldn't trade him for very NFL players. What I'd rather have in that room than Amon-Ra.
Real quick, let's just on that. If you could, 1 for 1, we lose Amon-Ra, but we gain any receiver in the league, would you take any trade for this
Justin
upcoming
Jefferson,
season?
Let's talk all. Okay, so just so that we're clear, the person who comes in, he magically knows the offense taking that off the table, you know what I mean?
Okay. Well, that's part of what I was saying is that
right.
The connection that he has with Goff, the way he runs the offense, the way he knows with Dan Campbell, that's what I was talking about, his value.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just saying that, say you could magically, they came in, I mean, and they had a rapport with Goff and all that stuff. I don't think anybody's going to be. I mean, Jared Goff has said that Amon-Ra and him have the best connection he's ever had with a receiver. So I don't think anybody you bring in is going to be able to duplicate that. Let's just say, for instance, that they come in, they would know the offense, they'd have somewhat of rapport. Justin Jefferson is probably the only one in the NFL that I would feel comfortable enough to bring in and replace on the team. Now, there's other people that are talented. A.J. Brown, I think, is on that list. C.D. Lamb's probably on that list. Those guys could come in and do amazing things. But for what Amon-Ra brings to this team, I don't think there's, I mean, outside of Justin Jefferson, he's the only one that I would trade, to be honest with you. What about you?
I could see Justin Jefferson or C.D. Lamb, two people that you mentioned. I wouldn't really want A.J. Brown. No, but just the reason I asked was just because I was saying, because of the connection that he has with Goff, because he knows the offense, because he's been here, what he brings the team, what he means to the team. I think even if you were to be able to trade one for one, I don't, realistically, so if we're saying yes, they would have to come in and learn the offense and everything like that, I don't think I would trade him for anybody. Even if they would, one for one Justin Jefferson, but then Justin Jefferson comes in right now, right before training camp, and then he's got, obviously he's a great receiver, but he's got very little time to learn the offense, to get it going with Goff.
I think Justin Jefferson's just that one of one that he could come in. I know I think I've said this before on this podcast. I know he comes off as a little flashy, but I just don't, after the receiver show, I don't read him that way. And I think he'd come in and do whatever he needed to do to be successful. And he's just one of those guys that's super uber talented, that even if he wasn't know everything about the offense, he knows how to get open, and he's so dangerous once he gets the ball that I think that he's just one of those guys that you could plug in on a lot of teams and he'd do really, really well.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
He was good with Sam Darnold as his quarterback. So, and Jared Goff is a little bit better than Sam Darnold.
Right.
Just a little bit, right? Let's go to defensive line, because this is a big topic for Lions fans, right? We all wanted an edge rusher, right? PFF has our defensive line right now ranked as number 6 in the NFL, which is very respectable. I've asked you before, were you surprised with number 6, or you think that's right where we belong?
I guess I would say that's accurate, just because of the unknowns about Aiden Hutchinson, the fact that Aleem is injured. Like, if we're looking towards this next season, how it's going to go, I would think the 6 is valid.
Yeah.
Still top 10, still a top unit. They're still getting recognition, but there is still some unknowns. We don't know exactly how this is going to look right away.
Yeah, I think Aleem being out is a big question mark. Getting Levi back, obviously we've talked about this before, is huge. And then I think the underrated thing that we don't really know, and we won't know till we get in camp, is Roy Lopez. He's going to come in and spell DJ Reader, which, if he could get DJ Reader off the field a little bit, then it's going to just make him a better player too. Just keep them fresh and just have a good rotation, which I'm happy about, because we had a lot of attrition last year. But hopefully some of those guys like Muhammad will come in and be a better player this year, be ready to make some reason, make some meaningful snaps at some point. This and Wingo was a rookie last year, and he's going to come back. I know he's undersized, but maybe he's had some time to train and get a little bit better and a little bigger size, so that, because I know he could play inside and outside, but he's kind of really small to play inside, especially with the Lions. I want to stop the run.
Right. But I was just going to valid point about staying fresh, right? That's the big thing. Being able to rotate, not overdoing it, not having any more injuries, God forbid. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Oh, God. We can't sustain that. I just hope, I know you're all about jinxes, so I'm not even going to talk about injuries, because I know that you'll blame me for something if God forbid something were to happen. But, these PFF lists are what they are. I like seeing the Lions in the top end of these lists. So for so long, we did not see them anywhere close to being at the top of any of these lists. And now that, we're going to be up there. When they get to running backs, we got to be number 1, right?
That's the one that if we're not number 1, then something's gone wrong.
Exactly.
Who else would you put number 1? They've been putting the Eagles number 1 for almost every single thing. So if they put them number 1 just because of Saquon, that's invalid.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're listed. I don't know if it's rushing or if it's running backs. Because if it's rushing, then you could argue that Baltimore with Lamar and Derrick Henry could be up there. I could see that. But if it's running backs, then No one. I mean, Atlanta's probably the only one that's got a pretty decent 1-2 punch that's comparable to ours.
Yep.
Other than that, I'll take ours all day long against anybody, that especially a healthy Dave
100%.
Montgomery.
I just don't like, if you're voting on like running back units, I don't think that any of them come close to us.
No, I don't think so either.
Nobody's got 2 elite running backs. Gibbs top 3, Montgomery, you got to say probably top 20 at least. I mean, not all teams have that.
No. Well, the thing is that, like, we think of what, they call them Sonic Knuckles, but the thing is that they overlap so much too. They both can receive out of the backfield. They're both very talented in that respect. Jahmyr Gibbs actually averages more yards per carry running between the tackles than outside the tackles. So, it's not like it's not like a Theo Riddick situation. Do you remember when Theo was on our team and you try to run him between the tackles, never get any yards? We'd always have to rush to the outside with him. Jahmyr, you could go either place. And Dave Montgomery is probably definitely, a between the tackles type runner, but he's good enough to make people miss too. And he, it wasn't too long ago, 2 years ago, that he had the 2 longest runs of the NFL or for the Lions this season. Jahmyr didn't go past like 25 or something in his rookie year. So I mean, David you get him loose, he can run it too. So I'll take those 2 over any other tandem in the NFL right now.
Yes, absolutely. That's just what I was saying, is that, that one, that's the only one that's like, that better be number 1.
Exactly. I'm with you there. So we'll, as soon as it gets released, you could send me the note, because if it's not number 1, you can go Morgan Cannon on someone.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's it for the PFF raids. Let's move on to an interesting question that I have for you. So there's a lot of images that stick in my head from the last season of the Lions, but let's look forward in 5 years. If you look back at the 2024 season, is there an image in your head that you're going to be reminded of last season?
I thought about this, like, just because there were a couple different things that were like actual images that I've seen that are like, okay, those are cool, and different things that have stuck out. The first thing that came to mind, though, was the Amon-Ra headstand celebration. Okay. Just something about maybe defining the season, like how well things were going, how much fun everybody was having, that celebration and everything like that. That was the first thing that came to mind for me. And I've got a couple more on my list of things too, but was there one that you thought of right away?
There's that one is definitely, and I tend to think that that's the one that is going to be the correct answer to this question. But the Brian Branch double bird, yeah. I mean, that's on shirts. I mean, so is the Amon-Ra thing. But Brian Branch thing is just, first of all, it's such a Detroit thing. It just feels like this is Detroit. Number 2, I did not ever expect Brian Branch to do that. Like, I know he's an emotionally fiery guy, but he also just is a very heady player too. And I didn't think that he'd be that mad for him to do that. But just the way the city embraced it, especially right afterward, just coming up with the shirts and everything like that. So I definitely think that one's on there. The other one that's a downer is that I think that maybe after Hutch has won like 2 or 3 defensive player of the years, what will is just the image of him on the ground in pain. If we think back, and like that may encapsulate the injury. When we talk about like why this last season was as successful as we wanted it to be, was because of injuries, and that was kind of be the face of the injury one. So that was the only other one. I do have one that I think's on your list. So do you want me to tell you what it is? I think it's definitely something that you probably, maybe you could put this on your blank wall behind you. I think you want a picture of this. It's Jake Bates stretching when he was in Houston. They caught him on the side. I think that's what you want to pick, right?
Hilarious. That's not even like, wasn't even on the radar. I forgot that even happened. You had me going. I was like, okay, I've got a couple of these on this list. Let's see if he knows. That did not make the cut.
No.
That was good.
What did make the cut, though?
The other pictures I like, Panay Sewell when he was throwing the stiff arm, when he was trying to, get free. That was another good one. Sam Laporta, the diving touchdown.
Yeah.
Well, that was an awesome touchdown, but, it's tainted because of what happened in that game. But still just cool images that we've seen.
The JMO hurdle too could be on that list
Absolutely.
too. I didn't have it on there. I just, when you mentioned the Sam Laporta, that's just, my son has 2 pictures in his room both from last season. One's the Sam Laporta one-handed catch against the Commanders. No, I'm assuming that's the play you were talking about, right? The one-handed catch in the end zone. Yeah, and then the JMO hurdle. He's got a big poster of that in his room, which is I'm kind of jealous. I want it. I need it down here. I asked, actually, when I was setting up this office area, I asked if I could put up one of those pictures. He told me no. He said no, they stay in my room. So
nice. Don't blame him.
But those would be but I just think when you go back when like 5 years from now, I think that the Amon-Ra, unless he does it like a lot, or he does it again, because you could see Tesla doing it, because Tesla did that celebration in college after
right, but once
it.
it's been done once, you got to think of something new, right? That's the new thing.
What if they do a double headstand though? What if they do it like Tesla gets his first touchdown this year?
There you go.
And then they both do it. That's got to be it, right? Maybe the whole team does it. Maybe the whole wide receiver group does it.
Let's have the offensive line and everybody. Jared Goff.
No, did you want to put a Sewell on his head like that? No. But I think that's
Can you
the
imagine
answer.
Skipper?
My gosh, that dude is so big. Get Manu up there too, just for good measure,
the
man.
Whole team.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's either the Amon-Ra or the Brian Branch double bird. If you would have went with either one of those, I would have said you're right. Any of the other ones, cool, but I just don't think they hit them. That we're going to remember it this 5 years from now.
Right. I mean, to your point with the Brian Branch thing too, that's obviously never going to happen again. We'll go back to how heated that moment was in that game and everything like that, and then you'll remember it was this year. 5-10 years down the road, the Amon-Ra headstand thing will be really cool, but you may not remember what year that was in.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Well, the Brian Branch thing, I mean, I can't tell you what the Amon-Ra, what game was the Amon-Ra was that a green? What game was that? Was it the same game? Same game. Okay. See that. Yeah. And so I will always know that the Brian Branch was a Green Bay game, just because I know what happened in Green Bay. The weather was crappy. It was a divisional game. I remember how devastated I was when they were kicking him out of that game, because we already had lost Hutch, and now you're getting rid of our second, arguably our second best defender. And it was like, oh man. But
yeah, that was crap. We don't need to relive it.
No, we don't. We do not need to relive that. Couple weeks ago, the last time we were on, I told you about the Dan Dickerson, that I was going to meet him. That did end up happening. And let me just tell you that he is as nice as you think that he is, because he was awesome. He spent 10 minutes with my family down there. My grandma told him some, stories or whatever about tigers and just other things. And he was just so attentive and just was generally like interested in what people had to say. And then at one point he goes, "Who's the one that paid for the cameo?" And I said, "Well, that was me." And so we talked for a little bit, and I brought Preston over, and because he shook everyone's hand, but Preston was kind of like behind someone, so he didn't shake Preston's hand. And I was like, "Oh my God, if he does not shake my son's hand, Preston's going to be, he'll be upset at Dan, but he'll be just upset that he missed that opportunity."
Left out or let down.
Yeah. So I said, "Dan, I just want to tell you," I was like, when I told him this story, I said, when Javi Baez hit that walk-off against Boston, my oldest here, Preston, would not go to bed until I found your call of the game. We listened to Jason's Benetti's call like live. I go, Preston would not go to sleep. We were so excited about the game. He's like, "I just got to hear Dan's call." So I found it, I told him that story. And then Dan told me that his brother's middle name is Preston. And he's got a nephew with the middle name Preston, and it goes like 4 generations in the Dickerson family with the name Preston. So my son Preston thought that was super cool that he had that connection with Dan. But it was really cool. I also talked to Dan a little bit about Jason Benetti. I said I listened to their podcast. I was hoping to work into this podcast, like see if we could open the door of him coming on here. Didn't quite get that far because Dan got pulled away, but he did spend 10 minutes with us, and it was everything that I was hoping it would be. And it was awesome for my grandma. It was her 90th birthday. It was a very special day. And then the Tigers won 8-0, which was awesome.
Right. All around, just a great experience, great day, great game. Looked like you had like 30 people with you. No wonder you didn't shake everybody's hand.
We had 13 people in our group, and when Dan came down, he goes, "Oh," he was a little bit shocked that there was that many people. I think he thought it was like maybe me and my grandma or someone else.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Everyone came over because I had my 2 nephews were there. And I didn't tell you this, Jacob. The free press was actually taking pictures of all of us while this was all going on, and then the free press come over and asked me for my name and my age, because they were going to either, if I got in the paper, it was going to be in the caption. I went up north the next day and I didn't have internet access, so I didn't see it, but I may have been in the free press. I don't know if I was or not, but
something like that, though, they also could keep that for just whenever they want to use it. It could be months.
Exactly. It could be just like a nice story about Dan at some point. It was a cool story, but why? So another thing that happened is Dan comes out, and then it was just in the concourse. Like, he came down out of the radio booth downstairs and just like into the concourse. We were kind of off to the side, so it wasn't like in the middle of everybody, but a couple people noticed it was Dan Dickerson over there. Another family just kind of horned in on us and was like, "Can we have a picture, Dan?" And I was like, No, Dan's here for us, man. Come on. No,
Dan's my friend. You can't talk to him.
Exactly. You don't know Dan. I'm the one that has Dan's phone
Meanwhile,
number. So,
Jason brings everybody from section 120.
I know. Yeah. He was so nice though. He went and shaked everybody's hand, talked to everybody. He was just a nice dude. And it was good. So
I could tell based on that cameo that he sent, though, he seemed really genuine. It seemed like that was what the experience was going to be like. Didn't seem like, and that was something completely that he did not have to do. He offered and did all that, on his own. So that,
I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And just like I said, it was my grandma's 90th birthday. It was just an amazing, to be able to give her that experience. And I get meeting Dan myself. That was pretty cool, I'll say.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking, all right, Dan Dickerson, in Detroit, we love our broadcasters. Right? We've had a history of really, Ernie Harwell, now with Jason Benetti, Dan Miller on the Lions. You got Ken Daniels for the Red Wings. Lots of good, you could say Rod Allen. People like Rod Allen. I was impartial to Mario Mpemba. We
you were impartial to Mario Mpemba? You didn't like Mario?
No, I was partial to. I said I like him. Yeah, like some people.
I thought you said you were impartial, like you did not like Mario Mpemba.
Yeah. No, I like Mario. Okay, yeah. He was a little dry, but I like. He was good. He did what he did what a good play-by-play guy is. We saw after him who replaced him, not as good.
Right.
And now Jason Benetti's come in. He's awesome. Even before Mario Mpemba, Josh Lewin, which I don't know if you ever, him and Kirk Gibson used to be on. They were awesome too. Just so many good. Mark Champion for the, they used to call the Lions. We had a lot of good broadcasters. So it made me think, I want to know, Jacob, what is your favorite of the NFL broadcasters, your favorite national broadcasting team? What is the one that you like the most?
I don't know that I necessarily have a favorite because I don't ask a whole lot out of these announcers. I don't need, like the insight and everything is cool. Them, little behind the scenes stories, their banner back and forth. Like, that's cool to listen to. Some people do it better than others for sure. I don't know that I necessarily have a favorite. I mean, Romo's first year, Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, that was really good. I don't listen to them a whole lot though, because it's CBS and usually, we're not usually on there. Don't have to. The Monday Night Football, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, that's cool. Al Michaels on Thursday. I mean, I actually think I enjoy most of them. The only one that I did not care for last year was listening to Tom Brady. And I like Tom Brady, but there was just something about when I was listening on there. It was like the only one that was like, come on, Tom, get it together.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The Tom Brady, I don't know if it's, I mean, we're both Michigan guys, right? We want Tom Brady's to succeed.
No, I like Tom Brady, but yeah, there's just something like,
Yeah, I don't know if he found his groove, and I don't even know if that's his next necessarily where he should be at doing that. I mean, I think there could be other things. He'd be better off like in a pregame show or something like that.
Yes,
just something more relaxed. I just
like Randy Moss.
It's one of those things where like he was so good that and almost like he's going to talk down to no one else has won as many Super Bowls to him. So like it's almost like he's got to talk down to all these guys. Like, I'm better than all of you playing this position. And I'm not saying he does that, but it just feels like that, that.
You think he does that like in all aspects of his life?
He might, He's like,
Tom, we're out of lobster. He was like, I'm sorry. Do you know how many Super Bowls I've won? Go to the store and get more.
yeah, exactly. But I will say that the one that I like of these teams is the Troy Aikman and the Joe Buck. That's the one that I probably could listen to, and not be overly annoyed with them. What's funny is Joe Buck, like if you've ever heard him outside of like broadcasting, he's hilarious, but he doesn't really bring that in the booth at all, which I wish he would, because he's actually a very funny guy. But I find them to probably, when I categorize announcers, is almost, I should have put in there, who's the least annoying, because that's probably where I'm at, because I get annoyed by pretty much almost all the announcers.
They all say stupid things here or there, like, some of the insight that they provide is like, that's not what they're doing, or, like, I don't know. I guess the type of fans that we are, and when we're watching these things, it's usually because we're obviously rooting for the Lions. I mean,
yes.
If I'm watching a different game, then I don't care what they're saying anyway. Like I said, the little insight and stuff is cool, but it's not necessary for me.
Well, it also becomes as like, especially when they're talking about the Lions, like these guys just have like a week with the team, so it's not like they're getting all the insight that we have, following them year round. And so like that's what's really annoying when you start hearing things, or they'll come up with like some sort of, media talking point that is not really important to Lions fans, or something like that, or something that's overblown, or something like that. You get really, you can get really annoyed with, and I think that's what happened to a lot of Lions fans. And then for a while, we were just so jaded because there was nothing to talk about with the Lions that, either they were really like talking us up for stupid things like, oh, way to get a first down, or something like that. Whereas, we didn't really have too much to talk about, or they were just basically talking about the other teams. I think if you listen to anybody, if you look at anybody's message board, almost everybody thinks that the announcer hates their team. And but for a while, the Lions were right, because we had nothing to root for. Unless you lived around here and just lived and died with this team, everybody else, there was nothing really to talk about with this team. Is there a pairing that you would see of these groups that you would like to have together? Like if you could mix any one of these teams, like have the play-by-play guy and then, the play-by-play and the color, who would you put together?
I didn't have one. I don't have one. But looking at the list that you made and just looking, I think that would kind of be cool dynamic to have Troy Aikman and Tony Romo have to go back and forth. Like, I don't have one. There's not like, oh man, this is the dream team or whatever if these two guys got together. Is there two that you had in mind when you were thinking of?
I really like Mike Tirico, so I would like to see him with I think him and Kurt Herbstreit would be all right together.
Okay.
You mentioned Tony Romo first year. There's a difference between first year and after that. I don't know what happened, but I just find Tony Romo,
he wasn't trying too hard before.
Yeah.
He was just letting, what he saw is what he was talking about, and that's what he was doing. And then it seemed like, okay, I don't know if it was the network or whatever. It was like, hey, you have to crack more jokes, or we need more back and forth with you and Jim, or, you need to be studying more so that you can bring up things outside of the game. Nobody wants to hear that. I mean, everybody was on Team Romo for that first year just because he was predicting the plays as if they were going to happen. And it was real likable and everything that first year. And then afterward, it just something switched.
I'm with you. I was wondering if I was the only one that felt that way about Tony, because I was like, man, I like him the first year. I really did. It was fresh and it was cool. But then, it's one of these things these networks get in here, or maybe Tony got in his own head and thought, well, I need to be different. Because I think that's what's happening to Tom Brady, to be honest with you. If he just got up there and was Tom Brady, it'd probably be better. But I think he's trying to do things that just are not. He's trying to be someone else instead of just being himself. And I think he'd be better off if he was just himself. I could tell you who I don't want on there is Chris Collinsworth. That guy drives me. That's the one I don't want. He drives me nuts.
I see all the memes and stuff and where they cut clip, because he's the one where they're like, well, here's a guy, right? He always says that. Is that, yeah, right.
Well, here's a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I see those. And those are funny, but I mean, like I said, when I'm watching those games, it goes in one ear and out the other. It's not anything that's like, oh my God, will this guy just shut up? I don't have anybody like that, really.
Well,
in the NFL, I don't have anybody like that in the NFL.
Oh, is there someone outside the NFL that you don't like?
I don't like, when it comes to college football, I don't like listening to Gus Johnson.
You don't like Gus Johnson? Wow.
So when he's not calling like Michigan, Ohio State, when he's calling other games, I like the energy and like the different things that he's saying. But when we're watching Michigan, Ohio State, all about the world famous Ohio State Buckeyes and Maserati Marv, and I forget the other nickname that he had. But I mean, they try to be impartial as much as they can, but especially last year or the last couple of years where Ohio State was favored, definitely it was like the broadcast team and everything was just geared towards Ohio State. So then us as Michigan fans having to watch that, like, will you shut up already? And then the big plays, it was like when big plays happen, was not bringing the energy like he would for the team. Like, Ohio State gets a first down and then he loses his mind because Harrison, caught the ball. And Michigan scores a touchdown. And he's like, oh, that brings it to whatever the score is. So he's the only one that when I was thinking of announcers, like, man, and some of his stuff is like all time, or you could watch highlights. And when he, gets going, the energy and stuff like that is, very good. But just going off of the Michigan, Ohio State things, I don't care for it.
All right. I got this. I see. You're just the bad blood of, anything positive Ohio State. If someone says something positive Ohio State, they're on your list, I can see.
Not necessarily, because, I mean, how many times we had to listen to Herb Street?
Yeah.
And he, obviously I would understand for him to be not totally impartial. It'd be hard for him to be impartial because he's a Buckeye. He's rooting for them. He, doesn't have to hide it, but he does have to, bring the information and announce as if he's not. And I don't think he does a bad job doing that. Now, when you talk about outside of the games, when they're talking about it, yeah, of course he's glazing over Ohio State and everything like that, but you can't be mad at him for that.
There's a lot of Ohio State people that don't like Kirk Herbstreit because of that, because he will say positive things about Michigan.
How many Ohio State fans do you know that are reasonable? There's only a handful of people that I know that are Ohio State fans that are reasonable and can tell it like it is and watch the game and just say what's really happening.
Yeah.
Most people that I know that are Ohio State fans are insufferable. So listeners, I'm sorry if you're Ohio State fans. Maybe I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm sure you guys, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm sure that you like football and you can think outside the box a little more.
Yeah, we're going to get some messages. That's fine. Like we did last year when we talked about J.J. McCarthy. People didn't like that. So I'm sure there is some Ohio State fans listening, but I'm with you.
That's okay.
Yep. That's all right. Is there any of the non-teams that you don't like, or is there someone that of the non-number one teams that you like to listen to?
What do you mean?
So Greg Olson or someone like that. Is there someone else that you like?
Well, I mean, you bring up Greg Olson. He's really good. I mean, he's really good at what he does, but I can't even think of a name off the top of my head of somebody else.
So I will, just because us being Tigers fans, Jason Benetti last year called a game with Greg Olson, and that's the team that I want. I call it, if I have to listen to a Lions game, that's who I want to listen to, is those two.
What game was that? Do you remember?
It was a Commanders game. I'm not sure what it is, but Jason Benetti's not. He must have just been subbing in. So it's usually Joe Davis is the play-by-play guy with Greg Olson. That's the number 2 team at Fox. Really probably the number 1 team, because I think Greg Olson's better than Tom Brady at doing color commentary. Jason Benetti, we were watching Red Zone. That's all the reason I caught it, because it switched over to Red Zone, and I was like, oh, that's Jason Benetti. I know that voice, and my kids got super excited because they love Jason. Right. So one of the guys I don't like is John Vilma. I don't really like his insights and stuff like that. I'm not a huge fan.
There's another one that's a former player that's like, okay, just because you're a player, I mean, agreed.
Daryl Johnson's another one I don't really care to listen to either. Just his insights are just, I don't know, they come off pompous to me, and I don't know.
See, if I heard the voice, maybe I would be able to make these connections, but I don't pay attention to who's talking.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Adam Amin is a play-by-play guy. He's the one that goes with Mark Sanchez. I like him. He can actually call a game pretty good. And then, you mentioned Jim Nantz is the primary guy. I love Jim Nantz. Ian Eagle is another guy that calls. He's the number 2 team at CBS. He calls a lot of basketball too. I like him. Kevin Harlan's also pretty good. You would probably if we played like voices, you'd probably recognize all these guys because they make
So I
really
said
good calls.
I'm sure I've heard all of them, but just saying their names means nothing.
Yeah.
Someone else I want to mention though, real quick.
Yeah.
Because you had mentioned like all the Detroit people earlier, but I don't think you said him. And this was like really high on my list for me is George Blaha.
Yeah.
I don't think you mentioned him, but
I should have mentioned him. And probably when I was making my list, I probably thought of him. And I just don't think of basketball that much. But yes, George Blaha definitely belongs.
Because he was at like the top of my list because I think my entire life it's only been Blaha. Every time I've watched the Pistons, it's been him.
Well, I remember Blaha calling the Bad Boys when I was younger. He would call that. And I remember distinctly talking about Vinnie Johnson heating up against Portland Trailblazers when they won their second title. I think maybe we mentioned this. I know I mentioned this to you, but when we went to the Pistons game and my boys were there, they had an and one situation and the boys called it just like how George Blaha, and I got goosebumps and I don't know if I started to tear up, but it was just like, it was a magical moment for me that my 10-year-old was quoting George Blaha and just said it just the way he, and count that baby in a foul. And, they just said it just like how George Blaha says it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in a special time.
Proud dad moment.
Right? It was just like, because like that, I was 10 years old listening to him saying those type of things. And for my son to be repeating that and just, kiss it off the high glass and stuff like that, those type of iconic calls that George Blaha says every game, but never get old because they're iconic and there's something there's very nostalgic for me. So yes, good call by you. Yes, %.
Yes.
Yeah. Just, and he's going to be calling this year. And I want him to get one more championship for George. That would be great before he retires.
Right. Oh, man. I hope.
Yeah. All right. Before we head out of here, I'll just finish up on the broadcaster stuff. Is there a favorite all-time team that you have? Like someone that you remember as a kid? I'm talking about NFL here. Is there a team that you remember that you liked, or is this just something that's not like in your wheelhouse?
There's not anybody that comes to mind that's like so much better than anybody else. I more associate with just, being little and then Monday Night Football coming on. You go to school and then Monday Night Football's on. And then I, usually can only watch, 10, 15 minutes of the game before I had to go to bed. Mm-hmm. But and I, would have to look up right now who the announcers even were back then. So I don't. Nobody that's by name is sticking. That's like, okay, yeah, they're the ultimate.
So when this is not even when Fox got there, I don't know when Fox got theirs in 93. They put Pat Summerall and John Madden together. That is my all-time favorite team. They were just so good together. My second one is John Madden and Al Michaels together, and they called Monday Night Football I know they called Sunday Night Football together. Did they do? I can't remember if they did Monday Night Football.
It says Al Michaels and John Madden. That would have been when I was like 12 years old.
Yeah. They were good together. And that's when Al Michaels was, right now, I don't think Al Michaels is as good as he was when he was younger. And he used to be much better at his job. But I don't think he's bad right now, but he's just not anything super special at this point. But when him and John Madden were together, they had a very good chemistry, and I really liked that pairing together. So I would, John Madden was just one of the all-time greats. Do you remember John Madden? Was that something that you thought was cool? Obviously, the football game and stuff like the video game, but
I heard his voice a whole lot being younger, but it wasn't like, oh, when you're 10 years old, you hear the voice and you're like, okay, I know this guy, but not,
He would just say so many cool things. Like he came up with the word cankles. Do you know what cankles are? The area between your ankles and your calf. He's like, that guy's got thick cankles. I remember that. And then all the Maddenisms like the boom and, just right on the telestrator. He was just a breath of fresh air from everyone being like so correct and just like so polished. And he would just come in there and just have fun. But he was super knowledgeable too. So he didn't come off like as an oaf that didn't know anything about football. He's a Super Bowl champion, coach. So, he obviously knew football and, and then for another generation, it's the Madden football game. A lot of people nowadays, they're playing Madden 26. They're not going to know, the younger kids don't know who John Madden is. They don't know where that game came from. But he was awesome. I love John Madden.
After him, the Monday Night Football thing, not right after him, but Gruden, also kind of the same thing, the former coach, really positive insight and stuff like that.
Yeah. So he was good. I liked listening to John Gruden in the booth. I thought he was actually really good.
Right.
He came in, I think, because I think there was 3 people in the booth. That's when they were really putting a third person. For a while, I don't know if you know this, Monday Night Football put Dennis Miller, a comedian, in the booth. They were trying to make it interesting, so they put a real comedian, had no football ties at all, and Dennis Miller has really you had to really know your stuff to find him funny, because he would just have off the wall references, and if you weren't knowledgeable, it was just a weird situation to put him in the booth. It just didn't work.
They needed the alternate broadcast, like the Manning cast with him.
They do the Manning cast, yeah. Just I didn't watch that at all last year. Maybe I'll have to do that again, but I was really into it the first year, but I didn't watch it at all last year.
I always see little clips of funny things that they said or did afterward, but I don't typically watch that one.
It's just harder to watch the game. So if there's a game that I want to watch, it's just harder to pay attention to both those things at the same time. It's
like we've talked about before, watching a game with your friends or whatever, but they're talking.
Exactly.
It's okay, shut up. I'm trying to watch this.
Exactly. I want to be able to watch this. Today, I had that moment upstairs with the boys. We were watching the Tigers game before we came on. It's Scott Harris, the president, was in talking with the booth, and Preston's asking me questions, which is normally fine, but I really wanted to hear what Scott Harris had to say. And I'm I got to listen to this, because he's talking about Max Clark and Brasinio. And
they brought all them to
they just got all caught up to our AA. So I wanted to hear what he had to say about them, but I had that moment where I'm Preston, I really need to listen to this at this point.
I love you, but please stop.
Exactly. Before we head out of here, I just, Pride Detroit just has a new host, Miko Scott, who's a friend of the show. So I wanted to give Miko a shout out and just say congratulations. I know he's going to kill it over there, and I'm really happy for him over there. So I know that he's really happy about that promotion. So congrats, Miko.
Absolutely.
Well deserved.
Yes, well deserved. He knows his stuff. He does a really good job, and I think he's going to go in pretty seamlessly. They're going to get, hit the ground running, right back down to business, and I definitely think he's going to make the show better. Yeah,
he's good. And then his Miko's partner had his baby, and I just want to say congrats to Morgan, and being a father is obviously Jacob, and I know about that, and it's a special thing. So congrats, Morgan, for that, and can't wait for you to be back on the show and talking football as the season gets closer. Do you think he timed this baby purposely so it wouldn't interrupt football season at all?
Right. That seems like a Morgan thing, huh?
Yeah, it does. It seems like totally a Morgan thing to do. So that and yelling at people on Twitter, those two things. So.
Right. He's not gonna have as much time to do that anymore.
No, he's not. But I'm sure he'll maybe.
Congrats to him.
Do you think it'll mellow him out? Do you think it'll mellow Morgan out? So he won't argue on Twitter as much?
Not yet. Maybe when she's a couple years old, but no, not yet.
Yeah. Wait till she's a teenager, and then he's got to deal with that. Probably. He's going to be even worse, right?
Right.
These first few years are the sweet years, and then they start to talk and they get attitudes, right? You know how that is. You got a teenager. All right, man. So it's good to have you back. I think we're going to be doing this in a couple days, right? We got a
guest star.
Special guest. We'll kind of let that simmer a little bit, but it'll be a good show. So we figured since we missed last week, we're going to put on 2 shows for you this week. So hope you guys enjoyed it. For Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.